How do spot metering readings influence final exposure? Imagine you're trying to capture a scene with a bright sky and a dark foreground. You want both to look good, but your camera has to choose what to expose for. That's where spot metering comes in. It measures the light from a tiny, specific part of your scene, usually about 2% of the frame, and uses that to set the exposure. This small measurement point is often centered on your focus point or the main subject. Because it focuses on such a tiny area, it ignores the rest of the scene, which can be both a blessing and a challenge. When you use spot metering, the camera calculates exposure based only on the brightness of that small spot. So, if you meter on a bright object like a white wedding dress, the camera might try to darken that area to make it look middle gray. Conversely, if you meter on a dark object like a black tuxedo, it might brighten it up, risking overexposure. This means that your final image's brightness depends heavily on where you point the spot meter. If you meter on a bright spot, the overall exposure might be darker, and if you meter on a dark spot, the whole image could become brighter. Spot metering is especially helpful in tricky lighting situations. For example, if you're photographing a person backlit by a bright window, spot metering on their face ensures they are properly exposed, even if the background becomes overexposed or blown out. Or think about capturing the moon against a dark sky. Spot metering on the moon prevents the camera from underexposing it due to the dark surroundings. It helps you get the right exposure for your main subject, regardless of the overall scene brightness. But remember, because the exposure depends on where you meter, changing the focus point shifts the measurement. If you move from the face to the background, the camera recalculates exposure based on the new spot. This gives you control to emphasize specific parts of your scene. However, it also means you need to be careful. If you meter on a very bright or dark spot that isn't representative of the whole scene, your final image could look off. For example, metering on a white wedding dress might make the rest of the scene look darker than intended, or metering on a black tuxedo might make the background appear overly bright. In essence, spot metering influences the final exposure by isolating the measurement to a small, targeted area. It allows for precise control in high-contrast scenes or when the subject is small or in difficult lighting. But it requires you to choose your metering spot wisely to avoid unintended tonal shifts. This method is a powerful tool for photographers who want to control exposure in scenes with challenging lighting or when they need to highlight specific parts of their shot.